Okay. So are there any other loans available to apply for this money?
I mean, if they wanted you, we could go to like a normal loan or something, but the interest rate and the cost would be much more.
So that's or what about grants?
I don't know of any grants that would cover this.
So when do you think this project would start?
If we get authority to borrow, we could continue the engineering and start moving forward. We were really close to putting out a bid, so we'd be able to put out a bid later this spring, and then it would be dependent on construction timelines and stuff. So it'd be 2026 or 20.
And so I'm assuming that these costs are going to be passed on to the users?
Yes.
How many users do you have?
Now, I don't know the exact amount. I think it's 400 to 500. Yeah.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
I think it's around 400.
Okay. And so is there any, I mean, if I'm asked to vote on, so is this something that we're going to be voting on, you're going to vote on tonight, and then will we vote on as the public?
The public hearing tonight is whether or not the board continues to put it forward as written on the warrant.
Okay, so we'll vote on it in March.
Yes.
Okay. And so in March, we would have an idea of how much money, if we vote to approve this, that we would expect to pay additional in our sewer fees?
We can do some work in looking at that. Yeah, we can tell you based on current conditions.
Yeah, that would be really helpful because, wow. Thank you.
Other comments on Article 3? Yes, use the microphones.
Paul Courier, Crystal Lake Road. Did I hear you correctly say that just the users will pay for this?
Yes, it would be based on sewer fees.
I don't understand why it wasn't written in there in one of the lines. Make it perfectly clear who's going to pay for this. Maybe you could add that another line below the last one. I think that's confusing. Everybody in town says, geez, we got to pay for this. I mean, use the sewer. Just a recommendation, if you could put a little line in there at the bottom to be paid for by users only. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you. Other thoughts or comments? Public. Hearing none. Move on to Article 4.
So Article 4 is to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $2,585,436 in gross budget for Main Street parking and a trail along Main Street to Shaker Museum, parallel to New Hampshire Route 4A, with $2,068,349 to come from grant funds, and to authorize the issuance of not more than $517,087 of bonds or notes in accordance with the provisions of the Municipal Finance Act, RSA 33, and to authorize the municipal officials to issue and negotiate such bonds or notes and to determine the rate of interest thereon. Capital Improvement Program Capital Reserve Fund, which the Select Board's is agent to expend, will be used for the annual principal and interest payments for the life of the loan. So this is the Walk a Mile in Their Shoes grant program. A couple years ago, 2023, we got a grant to engineer and build this project. One, the grant wasn't enough, but two, it was coming through about the time the ARPA funds were coming through. I think there were some ARPA funds intertwined in it. So the deadlines of getting it done were really short, like less than a year time frame to get it done and obligate that money. We were not able to do that, but I did talk with the federal government and the state, and we were able to obligate the engineering for that. So Pathways Engineering has been working for about a year and a half now on engineering that trail and doing a little bit of work on the Main Street parking. With that, I was working with the state. They recommended that if we wanted to do this project, we put in for a TAP grant, a Transportation Alternatives Program grant, which we did. That grant was actually for $1.9 million, and then we were notified earlier in 2025 that they put an inflation rider on that, and that we're supposed to be awarded the $2,585,436 to build this project. I don't want to speak too much for the select board, but in the CIP committee, budget committee, and select board, we were talking about the $517,000 match that the town would have to do. And all three of those committees recommended that this come forward in some way, that the voters get to make that decision, that this is a larger amount of money than we ever expected for this project. So we're looking at that. We're continuing to engineer that. You want to go to the next slide? Just again, this just shows some estimates. Kind of read through what the 80-20 grant share looked like. Those are up there. Did want to highlight that the parking sidewalk enhancements, they were about $342,000. If I added in a 3.2% inflation adder from the time that we applied for this grant, that means the parking along Main Street, if we decided to just do that part of the project, would cost $356,000. I don't think we could do that under the grant funds because it was mainly the transportation trail is why we were awarded this grant. But I think it's good information to know if we're being asked to do $517,000, if the public thinks parking along Main Street and sidewalks and stuff in there is a good project to do. That would be a pretty good portion of the $517,000 anyway. And then just breaking down some loan funds. We talked to Mascoma Bank just to see what current interest rates were looking like if we were to get a loan on this. Interest rates, depending on how long we funded it and how we funded it, would be between 4.95 and 5.17%. And then we estimated two different loan values. A 15-year loan would be $49,834, or about 5 cents per $1,000 of valuation. And a 10-year loan would be $65,934 a year, or about 6 cents on $1,000 in valuation. I think that's it. I think we covered all the rest of that.
Comments, questions from the board?
I think the only comment I'll make is that in addition to the parking on Main Street, the other piece that is wrapped into this that we've heard a lot about in the last few years is actually the crossing at Main Street and 4A. This project would include that piece, and we've heard a lot about the safety in that area. And so that's another piece that if the town were to do that separately would cost money. That if you look at it, whether or not the $500,000 is worth it, that's another piece of value that the town gets that we've really been asked for.
Yes, to add to that, it would be, this project would add the rapidly flashing beacons like we put in by the school up here. One would be located at a crosswalk by Shakoma Beach, right there where we've been talking about, and then there would be another one on the other side by the Shaker Museum that would cross back across from the trail to the other side of the road.
I have a quick question. Addition of parallel parking near Lakeside Park. That's a little vague.
Yeah, it's kind of the little dirt strip along there right now. We have the no parking section in Lakeside Park, and then the sidewalk that used to go up somewhere right in that area down towards the Frog Pond. We'd get 15 to 20 parking spaces in with a little bit more, I'm going to call it decorative, but a nicer looking sidewalk with some curbing and some different things in there. It would be parallel parking along the side of it.
Thank you. Other comments, questions from the board?
I wanted to acknowledge that a lot of times in this town, projects come from an area of profound need, like our public safety building. This one came not only from a perceived need for the safety along Route 4, but it came from one of our commissions. It came out of Heritage, and I wanted to acknowledge Meredith Smith's hard work on this, because this isn't something that is a short-term, quick, thing that is falling onto the ballot. This has taken many years of consideration. I hope we'll hear more from the committee during the deliberative session. That's what it is this year.
Other questions, comments from the board?
I just, thank you, Kate. I just wanted to underscore the need for enhanced safety along 4A, that area between Tacoma Beach and the Shaker Museum. People are going to recreate there whether we make it safer or not. And I mean, during the summer, cars drive just as fast as they do all year round. You have people riding bikes and walking and running.
Tracy, any comment?
No, we looked at it as a CIP project, and we really felt that the proper thing to do was to allow the town to weigh in with their own opinions as to whether this investment of $500,000 and change is worth the effort for the project. It's a very valuable project. There's no question about it. The town needs to weigh in and decide for themselves the value of this investment.
Comments, questions from the public?
Oh, you want me to open the public hearing?
Please do so.
Oh, okay, because I was going to do that before, and then I did one. All right, I'm going to make a motion to open the last two public hearings, the Walk a Mile Grant Project, the town's share of cost 20% for Main Street parking and a trail from Main Street to the Shaker Museum parallel to New Hampshire Route 4A. Total project cost of $2,585,436 with grant funding of $2,068,349. And then the final public hearing, which is the Public Works six-wheel municipal plow truck for $280,000.
Thank you. Do
Second.
I have a second? Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Unanimous. Now the public. The back there, I can't quite see you. Yes.
Okay, Jean Patton. Yeah, I was on the budget committee. We talked about this. I think probably everybody knows my feeling about this. This is a big fat no for me. So my gripes with this is it's a wonderful thing and a great thing to have, perhaps. We have lots of those in town, but I still feel like, and I'm not sure that everyone has thought about this, every time one of these projects is done, it makes more work for DPW. If I was Jim, I would be pulling my hair out. Lakeside Park is wonderful. I've enjoyed it myself. It's wonderful. They've worked hard. They've done a great job. But guess who gets to mow that? DPW. So guess who's going to get to take care of this? DPW. And pretty soon someone, whether it's Jim or who it is going to say, by the way, I need another 3 guys to keep up with all the mowing and maintenance of all these projects. So it's like a snowball effect. 3 more guys, more benefits, the whole 9 yards. I just don't feel like this is the time for this to happen. I'm not happy about it happening at all, grant or no grant. And I feel like if it's going to be done, get lots of private money and let the private money pay for the maintenance of that. So that's my story.
Thank you. Yes.
Susan Brown. Kate, we can't understand what you're saying, probably because of your mask, but I'd like to know. I absolutely support this walk from the beach and the boat launch to the museum. One of the things you haven't mentioned is beyond the museum is the Shaker Fields, where there are dozens and dozens of kids all the time, not to mention the dog park. The traffic along there is dangerous. The police are putting in the time they can to patrol it, but everybody speeds and somebody's going to get killed. I'm afraid it's going to be a kid. We really need that part of this project along that section of Route 4A, especially in the summer when the beach is mobbed. There are people up there parked all along Route 4A with their pickup trucks and their boat trailers. There's no place for people to walk. It's a real problem. I'm out there all the time because, as you know, I'm out at the museum, and it's scary to think of what could possibly happen if we didn't have a better place for people. There's guardrail on the side of 4A along the lake. There's no place to walk. So I think it's very important to do this, and I hope you will.
Thank you. Mr. Stewart, did you have your hand up earlier? Not yet? Yes.
Paul Currier again. I'm not going to get dramatic. I'm just going to say what I got to say is that I live a simple life, and I feel there's two things in life, wants and needs. Some people want this path. Is it really needed? You know, they're looking at $500,000 here. You know, it sounds good. You get this big deal, 2.8 million, and the state's going to pay 80%. We still got to come up with $500,000. And to me, that's just money we don't need to spend.
Thank you. Seeley.
I was a big
You
advocate.
need to say your name at the mic because the minute taker isn't present.
What's the matter?
You need to say your name at the
I
microphone.
said it already.
No.
Celia Fiero. Enfield. Okay, I was on the Heritage Commission, I still am, and we were all in favor of doing this walk along 4A. And I've been very surprised how much that has built in the cost. To me, it was not that big a deal. And I want to know if you have plans that spell all this out, just to do the walk, just to walk from 4A all the way down, and even what you said, Susan, was a good idea. But anyway, that's my feeling on that. And I think that because of the times, because of the state of affairs of this country, I think we have to be very careful about the money we're going to spend or not spend. And I worry very much about it. And I think sometimes we're just going to have to give up things and wait and see what happens. But I think it's a very dangerous time to start making our property people, our property taxes get higher and get higher. So that's pretty much. Now for the parking, things like for up and down the, we don't need that, right? We've been living without it so far. So some of these things you can pick off. And as a big project like this, there's so many things thrown into it that I really believe things ought to be sorted out and not put everything into one grant. Yes.
Yeah, I can answer that for you real quick.
Go ahead.
The walk itself, if we took the two crossings and the parking out, would be about $2.1 million.
Well, anyway, you hear what I'm saying. Let's keep the money in our pockets. I think it's really, really important. We're going to lose more people from this town because they can't afford the taxes. And if we keep going up, especially with that reassessment, these people are going to be leaving right and left. And they're residents. They're good people in the town. It's our community. And I don't think we should be playing around trying to get more money.
Thank you.
Thank you.
The gentleman in back?
Steve Stancic. I guess my question is, not having had the advantage of seeing a lot of the detail on this particular program, I'm generally supportive of the concept, but I'm questioning the total cost. As I understand it, with what little I do know, we're talking about some kind of a gravel path that I presume is going to run atop the sewer conduit that's running from down street. And I'm just floored by the dollar amount that they're proposing to do this. And even the parking spaces along Main Street, I agree it would be a real nice idea to have a marked area so it's very clear to enforce parking. I must say that the new parking lot's beautiful, but it doesn't hold as many cars as the old one. So, people are now parking along the street more. And my thinking is, our 20% of a smaller project is a smaller number. And so I'm questioning, I think it would be helpful to circulate more detailed plans and give people more options, I think particularly before the deliberative hearing, so that if people want to pare away small parts of it as a cost savings measure, that could be very effective. Reason I'm saying that is because, just saying, but many years ago, I want to say maybe 10 years ago, when we had a federal grant available to construct this same path that we're talking about, the town voted it down at town meeting. So I don't want to see us going down the same road again, where, people not understanding all the consequences of this. And the other question I have is, how certain are we on the delivery of this grant, given the environment? Are these involving any federal dollars that could be pulled back?
They are federal dollars, but the state doesn't give them out till the state has the money in hand. So they're fairly secure once you get the grant. And then just to add on to that, I don't know that we could pare the grant down too much, because that's what it was awarded for. But a lot of the cost is the fact that it goes along that hillside that has runoff in the spring, and everything has to be elevated and built properly. So it's heavily engineered. It's not as simple as dumping gravel down the side of it. The price has increased too, and I agree with you. It's a quite expensive project for the trail down that side of the road, but that's what it would cost to pull the trail down the side of the road.
Will it be possible to distribute, more detailed plans for people to?
Yeah, we can put those out. The engineers have put forward the preliminary plans that they've done, and we've had public hearings on those. So you can get that information.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yes.
Hi, my name is Betty Plickta. I live on Crystal Lake Road. And I want to say that, first of all, I don't want to be a naysayer, because I think that maybe I come across that way. I hope not. But first of all, I watch all these meetings at home on TV if I can't make them. And the day that the engineer came to speak to whichever board it was, I forget whether it was planning board, zoning, or whoever, I was actually sitting home kind of laughing, saying, wait, they had to pay somebody to determine that a place couldn't be between the road and the lake. I mean, we all look at that and it's a steep hill. We already knew that we didn't want people walking on the road. And the only place that seemed viable was up on whatever the sewer line thing is, where that berm is. And I thought, oh, I hope they didn't pay him a lot. And of course, then I saw that they paid him $150,000, and I was astonished yesterday when I saw that. Then I also read that we had gotten a grant for $919,000 to do the study and to do the thing, and that $769,000 had to be returned. And in today's day, just 2 years later, that would be $832,000 that it was worth that we returned. Also, I looked up how much does hard pack cost. It's hard for me to say hard pack because my friend says hard pack. So I looked up how much hard pack costs per cubic yard and per ton, and it's between $11 and $34 per ton. I'll use that figure. And at a 2-inch depth for 4 feet wide by a mile long, the cost of at $11 a yard would be at a 6-inch depth would be $4,312. That's at a 2-inch depth. At a 6-inch depth, at most, at $34 a ton, it would be $13,328. So I was really astonished to see what this is going to cost. And I just honestly feel that unless that walkway is ADA compliant, which would mean that wheelchairs, walkers, people with strollers could go on it, I don't really understand what the need is. We have a lot of trails that are possible. I'm not saying that parking isn't a really big need here, and I would love to see something like that go through, but I don't understand also if you're going from where the parking lot is opposite the beach and walking down to La Salette, for lack of a better word, if the idea is that people want to go to the Shakers, then you have to cross the street. And that's a death trap right there. We already know that. I think one priest got killed there, right at that place. So my feeling is that when I ride on that road, which I think I ride on a lot, and I go speed limit, I would prefer to see for $2.5 million a walkway bridge be built from the parking lot over to the beach so that people could get there safely. But I don't understand the walkway at all. Thank you.
Thank you.
I can add just a little clarification, not that it'll help, but it is what they call ABA compliant, which is the trail version of ADA. So it would be a stone dust trail, but I agree with you. It's quite expensive for what we have to do, but it's federal and state regulations that make it have to be built that way.
I just want to say, I'm sorry, Betty Plickta again. I just want to say my father was a double amputee, and I pushed his wheelchair a lot. And it's very different whether you're pushing something on a gravel road or paved. Thanks.
Other comments, public, sir?
I'm Terry Chase, and I'm going to apologize up front a little bit. My hearing aids don't seem to work well with some of the vibrations here, but I'm going to clarify a couple things. The town's parking spaces they want to put in, the paved spaces along Main Street, is that from this side of the railroad overpass up towards downtown?
Yes.
Okay. Because I know when I was looking along the roads I came up tonight, if it was anything on the other side, it would be about impossible to put parallel parking unless you're going to put part of it in the water and the other part in somebody's lawn. And I was disappointed with all of the work that went into the Lakeside Park for the Mariners and Yacht Club, that the actual number of spaces that used to be available to park down there is actually shrunken. They have a nice little pavilion down there, and I don't know how much it's used, but there are less room to park down there than there used to be. So we could certainly use some more parking. There's no doubt about that. My concern about this trail, about 0.8 of a mile long from the bridge down to the former parking lot of the La Salette. And it's going to be up on the other side of the road. It's going to be up on the hill. There's going to be some amount of work getting it done. If the people are parking, people are driving down to use it, for instance, they're going to be parking apparently at the parking lot now at the top for the beach, because they can't park in the space down below, the logical space which we have to use for the boat ramp. It's going to start interfering with, I would think, with the beach parking. If you start finding a lot of cars coming down, parking up there, and people coming in to, as it is, have a climb up and down with little kids. My wife used to do it with 4 kids, not fun, to get down to the beach and back up. I don't know if there's room for that much unless somebody has plans to get part of that land back from the state or whatever and mow it down, cut it down, and lower the level of it. But as far as the trail itself, with a gravel trail, like the trail road down there now, it seems to me, if anybody knows me, knows in the last 40 years, I have voted in favor of just about every request that came forward for funding, as long as it was, announced and explained, and it was went through the committee, and it was recommended, whether it be high school replacement, other more vehicles. If it was something for the police department, I assume they needed it. Something for the fire department, I assume they needed it. I've supported, I'd say, 90% of everything that came through. And as a taxpayer, I've seen my taxes go up. I just paid my town tax last week, and there's a reminder of that. But in the state of the way this government is going right now, the concerns about funding, I also agree that I've seen funds that are guaranteed, funds that were allocated for years to universities, schools, to research centers, to medical coverage and stuff, has just suddenly by a stroke of the pen been canceled, and find people running around trying to figure where they're going to get the money to cover things that they had already planned. I've also seen the cuts to Medicaid, Medicare, food stamps programs, funding for education, et cetera, because it's just pretty easy to cancel them all, I guess, but not easy to get them replaced. And I'm thinking this is something that falls into the category of nice to have. Nice to have a trail to walk down on, nice to do it. I would throw out a number and say maybe 5% of the people living in Enfield might ever use this. So who really benefits from it that much? I'd say, even though relatively speaking, our role is only 20% of it, I don't really think it's worth spending $2 million on a trail like that. If we want it bad enough, get the Lions out and get some other people out and start digging. But I think it's a lot of money. And it worked for the soccer fields parks and for the building at the corner of Shoes Park, getting a lot of the public involved that might be able to help with it. But I'm concerned if we're not supporting our children, we're not supporting our education, we're not supporting the people who are in dire need of food or being able to afford the apartment they've been living in for years, I just question spending this much money on a nice to have, but not necessary to have. Sorry, and that's just my opinion. Thank you.
Thank you. Next.
Hi, Dan Regan. I think most people would say I'm frugal. I don't think I'm cheap. I think I'm financially responsible. And we had a lot of discussion this year at the Budget Committee about our spending in town. And I fully support our town employees, their wages, their benefits. I don't think we should be cutting services in town. And I don't think we should be deferring maintenance in town. Having said that, however, this has not been a bumper crop for many people in town. And I think we need to look at our spending and say, is this really where we want to spend $3.1 million? If the proposal was to fix the roofs of our neighbors, insulate their houses, or maybe get stoves for people that are using hot plates, yeah, maybe we could spend some money, but $3.1 million.
2.5.
We get 2.6 from the Fed and 500 from us, right?
No, 2.5 is the total cost of the.
Oh, that's fine then, okay.
Still 80/20.
lot.
Still a lot of money.
It's a lot.
Sorry. My mistake. So the other thing I think is interesting is just because it's only $500,000 from us, the federal money is ours too. It's just coming out of a different pocket. This is all our money. So I look at right now the fact that we have to spend $361,000 for the fraud we had last year. We have to spend $140,000 to address our financial issues. We've got a lot of things that we're spending money on right now. And I know a lot of people are really in favor of this project, and I respect their points of view, and I thought some people articulated very well tonight why they think this is such a good idea, but personally, I don't. If the money for the parking on Main Street and crosswalk on 4A has been tied to this project, and that's why we haven't looked at other funding for those two things, I think those are both needs. I'm sorry, we probably should have been looking for that money all along through other ways, because we need to get those things done. So I don't want to take any more time other than I think it would be, I'm trying to find a nice way to say it, I think it'd be a little bit tone deaf to put this up for a public vote. I wouldn't even put it up for a public vote. You have to appreciate where people are at right now. Thank you.
Thank you. I think Mr. Stewart is next. No?
So, Dave Buffet, Maple Street. As many of you know, I've been involved with various recreational pursuits and advocacy over many years, and have worked with some of the strong proponents for this. And I'm also a user. I bike 4A several times a week when I'm training for the Prouty, and hike the Shaker Fields and the conservation land above this proposed trail in several times a year. I actually propose to my wife at the feast ground. I know of what I speak. I'm also on the budget committee, and we're looking at significant increases, continuing increases year over year over the past 5 years that are truly significant. Dan and I have had many discussions. We agree on some things and not on others. But I think we agree on this, that the priority needs to be on the safety, and if you want to add a little bit of nice parking on Main Street near the park, I think that would be a reasonable idea. But if you say that 2.1 of this $2.5 million is the trail, it sounds like a fifth of that is related to safety issues and parking. That should be dealt with directly and not be by chasing grants. So that's all I have to say. I urge this not to be passed and to be rejected by the town.
Thank you.
David L. Stewart. Obviously, I'm opposed to this. I agree with anybody who stood up here was opposed to it. I agree with pretty much everything they said. Now we heard from 2 budget committee members. I'll tell you, if I was on the budget committee, I would be shooting this thing down. It's just a lot of money. It's more money than this town should be spending on something like this. It's a lovely idea. I think the idea is great, but so are a lot of other things. We could just dream ourselves away and spend money everywhere. So I agree with Gene. This is like mission creep. Every little thing is just like a nickel and diamond the taxpayers. Sometimes it's things we need. Sometimes, a lot of times, it's things we want. Like I said, this is a lovely idea, but frankly, I don't think it's going to pass at town meeting. And if I was on the select board, I'd be pretty apprehensive about supporting it, because it kind of paints you as someone who is a spendthrift. And I just, it really is. We just seem, we can't come up with enough projects in this town to spend money on. And I think it's time we slow down. I agree with Seeley. Just the economy. We all have things we need to spend money on. This town has other things it could spend money on. I'm a big supporter of the DPW. I bet, plus emergencies. Anytime we could have an emergency, a flood, anytime a bridge taken out, more money we got to spend. I think we just need to we should be frugal. I think that's what New Englanders, Yankees are all about. And I hate to see us stray from that sort of behavior.
Thank you.
That's it.
Shirley?
Shirley Green, Mine be very brief. Years ago, when I heard about this, I thought it would be nice to have. But in the last year and this year, built two very important, and a lot of people's taxes, incomes, a lot of times haven't gone up with their expenses. And I agree, this man, when nice to have things, this isn't a time for it.
Thank you. Okay, last chance for three. Oh, they're online. This gentleman here, and then we'll go to the electronic version.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Craig Sanborn of George Hill Road. So I concur with the opinions I've heard that this is a lovely thing to have. And I certainly can see the safety aspect of separating the traffic from the walkers and the strollers and the bike riders and so on. And although on the present lake side of the Route 4A, with the guardrail right next to it, there is presently a bike lane 5 feet wide, which I've seen a lot of people use. This is obviously going to be safer. And on those grounds, it's a good idea. With that being said, the cost of this is vastly greater than any likely public use or benefit. We have not heard anything about the construction standards, the result, the engineering study, which I've yet to see, and I fail to see just how you can spend $150,000 on an engineering study of what is basically a mile of trail on a very gentle grade with very manageable drainage problems. And what is the construction standards? What's the materials cost, etc. You haven't provided that yet, but those are just physical details. The main thing is that this town, with all that we are having to spend money on and the resulting rise in the property tax rate, that is putting more pressure on nearly all of the property owners here. This is not something we can afford, especially at the town's share of the cost. It is a good thing to have some kind of a walking trail up there. We certainly know how to do that. It'd be nice to see the engineering study, but if we had to, we could put in a perfectly durable path ourselves on what we know. That's a matter of cost, yes, but not the kind of cost that you're looking at. So it'd be a fine thing if rather than the town having to share in the costs directly this way, if you asked for donations from the interested public, and there are other ways to leverage that do not require such a huge expenditure of money on a 1 mile of trail that is frankly not all that difficult to build or maintain. And that is all. Thank you.
I believe Martha Rich has her hand up. Can you hear me?
Yes, I hear you. Can you hear me?
We can hear you.
Okay, I'm Martha Rich, Shaker Boulevard. I also think this trail is a good idea, and I suspect that this is not the time for this town to be investing in this particular lovely idea. But my main concern among the elements that are included in this is the safety aspect of the crossing lights. So I wonder, I appreciate all the work that's gone into working on this grant proposal and getting these funds lined up. I know that's not easy, but if this doesn't get approved by the town, I just hope that there could be another way to get those crossing lights at Shakoma and the other locations, crosswalks, something to increase the safety of people using those areas. Thanks.
Thank you very much. I think there's a Brendan Von Koss with his hand up.
Yep, can everyone hear me? Testing,
Go
testing.
ahead.
Yep, Brendan Von Koss here. I actually live right next to where the proposed trail is, so probably fairly biased here, but I am a big fat yes. I use that section of 4A for running and cycling and all kinds of things many times a week. And I can speak for my neighbors on their behalf, having to jump out of the way of trucks and cars and people distracted by their phones. It's a pretty regular occurrence, but it's a lovely place to recreate. And I think this is just a great opportunity to get it done. Again, I'm probably pretty biased considering I'm living right here, but I just, I think for a safety aspect, it's a no-brainer. A lot of it's grant funded. It's not going to come around again anytime soon, just based on the political climate. And like someone already mentioned, the bishop died in 2022. It was really tragic. Again, that was a crossing issue between the rectory and what was temporarily used as the church there. But anyways, that's my thoughts. Hope everyone has a great night.
Thank you. I think there's a Tom L. with his hand up.
Hi, Thomas Lockett, Lockhaven Road. I am thoroughly against this. I don't really see it as something that will be heavily utilized. There are not any residences between the Shaker Bridge and the Shaker Museum, really. And once you get to the Shaker Museum, after that, that's where all the residences really kick in. So you're basically just creating something that you can walk from, Enfield and down at the rail trail or whatever, across the bridge and up to the Shaker Museum. I don't see it as being heavily utilized at all. We already have, a bunch of things that we're trying to pay off between the new emergency service building, the updated Whitney Hall, and the school still, for that matter. I don't think this is something that's a necessity as much as a luxury. It would be nice to have the crosswalks, but where the state of New Hampshire has control of Route 4 and Route 4A as state-run highways, I see it as better off waiting until they eventually start giving out grants for safety type stuff again. Wants versus needs, and I think that we can, maintain where we are and make it sustainable without adding the expense.
Thank you. Okay, that's it for this article. We move on to Article 5.
Can I ask one follow-up question? I'm sorry. It slipped my mind. The parking downtown, would that part of that be covered under the business district tax money that kind of the business district sets aside out of property taxes in that district?
No, it's not in the TIF district.
Article 5, see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $180,000 to replace a Public Works 6-wheel municipal plow truck. Now here we're getting to the nitty-gritty of New Hampshire. Okay.
I'll read this one too to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $280,000 gross budget to replace a Public Works 6-wheel municipal plow truck and to authorize the issuance of not more than $280,000 of bonds or notes in accordance with the provisions of Municipal Finance Act RSA 33, and to authorize the municipal officials to issue and negotiate such bonds or notes to determine the rate of interest thereon. Capital Improvements Program Capital Reserve Fund, which the Select Board are agents to expend, will be used for the annual principal and interest payments for the life of the loan, 3/5 ballot vote required. This is scheduled to replace a 2012 six-wheel dump truck that's nearing the end of its life. It has about a 15-year life. We are seeing long lead times when we order these trucks. Usually, or the last one was approximately 2 years, sometime between 18 months and 2 years is what it takes to get these trucks right now, including plowing and sander on them. And then again, we did an estimation at the bottom, the interest rates, 4.67 and 4.95 based on current interest rates we got from Mascoma Bank, and annual loan payment, a 7-year loan, which is what we normally do for these trucks, I believe, is $47,154, about 5 cents per $1,000 valuation, and an estimated annual loan payment of $35,703 if we did a 10-year loan, which is about 3 cents on a $1,000 valuation. I have.
Sealy. Button. Oh, excuse me.
No, the public hearing was open.
Go ahead.
Go ahead, Sealy.
Sealy Offiero. I would like to know why this is not coming out of the CIP program. I thought that's why we have the CIP.
We looked, the CIP looked very carefully at this cost of this truck. Because of the total expense, we felt it would deplete the CIP too much in one lump sum. Take it directly out of existing or future CIP funds. Actually come out of future CIP funds, mortgage. But the amount of money, $280,000, with perhaps a turn-in value of $10,000, is too much of a lump sum to come out of the CIP in 1 year.
Well, I think it's a very bad practice to have the CIP fund pay for loan interest. I think that's terrible. And I think I think you should go back to the drawing board and find another way of doing it. But I think it's a bad practice. We'll be doing that all the time.
It's actually only been in the last 2 years that we've been able to pay cash because interest rates have been so low. Prior to that, almost everything the CIP did, cruisers and trucks, are presently all financed and have been for many, many years.
Yeah, but we're not paying for it, right?
No, you're paying for cruisers and you're paying for trucks, but they're financed, and they have been for many, many years.
The CIP is,
yes,
for many years have been
yes,
paying the...
Yes.
That's not good.
That's how it has been for quite a few years.
Not a good
Only
idea.
in the last few years has the CIP been able to buy a few things straight out because of extremely low finance rates.
It's the other way. The finance rates were so high, we paid cash the last few years.
Steve Stanczyk. Yeah, I've got issues with, the whole idea behind this CIP fund when we voted for it. It was the nickel a year, and we were going to accumulate capital so that we didn't have this kind of issue coming before town meeting, that we could purchase vehicles, routine expenses, without having to have special bonding. And yet, in the previous article, we're talking about spending $500,000 out of that fund, and yet here we are arguing over a dump truck. I just question where we're going with this fund. The idea was to build up a capital reserve so that we did not have to have these special bond issues every time there's a particular piece of equipment. I agree, DPW equipment is expensive. But you just said we've got a 2-year lead time, before we actually have to pay for this thing. So, loan rates now really don't matter a hill of beans. It's the amount of money we're going to put in the bank. And, if we're staying with the program and doing the nickel a year on the valuations and for tax purposes, we're continuing to accumulate money. And I think we have to be really mindful of how we're expending money out of this fund. It's not just a treasure chest to be raided whenever we feel like it. It was intended, I know I voted for this myself at town meeting, and I think I could speak for a lot of voters to say the intention was, to basically have this fund available for the smaller municipal purchases. Obviously, it's not going to cover everything. There's always going to be some major expense somewhere. But I just do not see this as being one of them.
Thank you. Let us strive to be concise from now on, folks. Time is moving onward. Yes.
Dave Buffet again. I will do my best to be concise. I agree that when I voted for the CIP, it was sold as a basically self-funding major capital improvements. We can't perhaps fund everything, and the CIP funding increases has not stayed just at 5 cents a year, but increases by 5 cents per year, as I understand it. And I don't understand the complexities of why some major capital improvements are within that fund and why others are not. $100,000 is a lot of money, obviously, but to have to do it both through the CIP and then to fund it through a bond seems sort of like counter to the initial idea of CIP.
Thank you. Yes.
Betty Plickta, and I will be very fast. I know nothing about CIP. I'm new to Enfield. I don't know how this gets funded. What I want to say, I see Jim Taylor is up there. The DPW does an amazing job on all of the roads for all of the people. I don't know how this gets funded, but if they need a dump truck with a plow, it helps everybody. At half the cost of what we would be putting into a walkway that might not service 5% of the population, I think however it gets funded, I would hope it would get funded the right way. I'm sure these guys are right about whatever CIP means, but I'm in favor of a truck with a plow.
Thank you very much.
I'll make a motion to close all 3 public hearings.
We have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I didn't do that to preclude board discussion. It just closes the public portion of it.
CIP looked very carefully at this truck. In fact, we rejected several other expenses this year. As I said, the reason for this truck being a bonded issue as opposed to an outright purchase is its total cost at $280,000, maybe $270,000 if we can get $10,000 as a trade-in. So it's not a question of purchasing the truck. That's a clear need as far as the town is concerned. The current truck is 12 years old. It'll be close to 2 years before we'll see this truck anyway, which will make it close to 14 years old by the time the new one shows up. Costs are awful on these new trucks. We don't control that, obviously. So it's a question whether we take it out of the CIP. But we look at a 6-year plan with the CIP. So as we go out 6 years, we try to keep the fund somewhat level in order to be able to have money should it be needed. Remember, the CIP fund, per se, is also there in the event of an emergency. So should something happen where $200,000 is needed to replace a building or, God forbid, a road, that money can be there as part of the CIP. There are no other funds available to be discretionarily used by the town. So we looked very carefully at a 6-year plan with the CIP. This year it was a truck, it's $270,000 plus. Question becomes, how do we pay for it? If we pay for it out of the fund, it depletes the fund over the period of 6 years. If we finance it, we can afford the truck without depleting the fund down to a potentially awkward level in terms of having other monies available.
Thank you. Other comments from the board?
I think I'd just like to add, I'm not a current member of CIP, but in the past, we have always done a blend of purchasing items and financing items, and they look very carefully at the rates and the wisdom of whether you should finance or not, and also at what the level would look like Tracy said. It isn't really for emergencies, but I'm going to give you an example of something that was more of an emergency that we did do at one time. We had a cruiser one time that was in an accident. We expected the insurance to cover it. Due to the removal of a stop sign, which we removed, it was an at fault on our part, right? And also, you know, if you've ever had a car accident, most insurance doesn't give you a brand new car. It gives you your $4,500 remainder, or whatever it is. So we were in a situation in which we had to decide how to replace that cruiser. We were fortunate at that time that our police chief found a very good deal that we could do, and the cash from CIP allowed us to do it. But it was in the plan. We didn't come up and say, oh, we're going to get a cruiser. We pulled something in from another year. And there have been instances where we've had an opportunity to purchase something knowing, say, that the metal cost is going to go up, knowing that the tariffs might impact it. So things flex within the years within the CIP plan, and that is a compelling reason why you shouldn't just try to spend all of it every year, right? It's a financial tool. Also, CIP does what we call tax leveling. It's not super exciting until you're the one who gets your tax bill, and one year it's, I'm just going to pick something outrageous, it's $900,000, and another year it's $1,000, and you're like, why is it so off? So that the function of CIP is to help us plan these over a longer period of time and do some tax leveling as well. It's not as exciting as it sounds, but when you go to somebody and you say, we're going to have a 300% increase in taxes, that's a lot worse than saying 2 or 3. So this is a financial tool. It is very, very complicated. I would encourage you to take the opportunity to read some of the minutes and take a look, because it's not as simple as what people tell you they remember.
Thank you.
It's a little bit off the subject, but because 2 people made reference to the amount of the money which fund goes up each year, which has been $26,200 for several years now, that only represents 2 cents in recent budgets. It no longer, and hasn't for several years, represented 5 cents.
Thank you. Are we ready to move on?
Yes.
All righty. Approval of the minutes of January 5th.
I'm going to make a motion to approve with an amendment on line 125. It should read apiary space, not aviary. 125? Yep.
Oh, yeah, bees, not birds.
Yep. Instead of V.
Okay. We have a motion to approve with an amendment. Anything else?
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Unanimous? All right. Board reports. Who would like to start?
I'll start. Heritage has not met since last time, and Eva is actually meeting tonight. They're also hosting a business-to-business event at the brewery tonight, and they'll be having one again at the same location next month.
Thank you.
I don't have any report at this time.
The planning board met and did a final, some more additional revisions to the proposed zoning in anticipation of a second public hearing next week, January 21st, out of DPW.
Thank you. The Budget Committee met on January 8th, reviewed the budget, reviewed the presentation to be presented, and it was a pretty good meeting. I continue to be impressed at some of the bottom numbers. You know, we look at this year's budget, or last year's budget, one we're operating under now, and the one that we're proposing, and then what we call the default budget, and they're really very, very close. The proposed budget that we're working with now is 3.1% less last year's budget. The default budget is only 1.05% less than that. It's a very narrow range. I think that means we've been budgeting sanely. Thank you.
Conservation Commission will meet next on February 5th at 7 p.m. in DPW.
Town Manager's report.
Yes, thank you. Starting with the staff report, I just want to remind the board that today was Emily Curtis's last day as a full-time employee with the town. We're gonna miss her, but we wish her well in her school endeavors moving forward. Let the board know that Chief Holland and I have both talked with Emily, and she's going to be working on a part-time basis for the police department for a little while to bridge the gap before our new person starts. I'll introduce her in a minute. And then I've also talked with Emily about staying on the books to do some as-needed part-time work moving forward. We have multiple projects in the town office, and we can use her help from time to time, and it'll help her out as well. So we're going to continue to work with her in that way. I would like to announce that Brooke Camp, she's been working with the Hanover Dispatch, has been hired and will be starting with the town on January 30th as the new PSAC coordinator. Emily will be around to do some part-time work to help train this person and bring them on board. So we're looking forward to welcoming them on and moving to this next chapter, but we'll miss Emily and all the good work that she's done. Also in the police department, as we announced last time, Mike Crate has put in for his retirement at the end of February, so the police department will be starting the search for a replacement candidate very soon. I have a date for that, but they said today that they're working on getting that started. On the finance director update, I'll talk a little bit more about it when we get to the finance report section of this, but I've signed a contract with MRI for contract finance services, which we will be meeting with them next week. We finalized the contract today, and we'll be creating a plan to get the financials caught up and get the contract person on board to start looking at some oversight and working with our team to see what we can do to make things better. Also completed the brochure I showed you guys, and I have it up here if people want to see it. To start the search with the finance director, and I did send Alan Gould that brochure and the final job description today. We should have that out published really soon. I'll stay in contact with him and let you guys know as that moves forward. On the audit front, we've received the draft audit, which was provided to the select board this week. We did complete the MD&A that goes in there, and Tim Green has sent the audit for final review. I have invited him to come to the February 2nd select board meeting, and we will invite the budget committee to hear this presentation. He will be here in person to present the audit and to talk to the select board and budget committee and anybody else who wants to attend. From the land use front, Rob and I attended the ribbon cutting today for Bark and Bevy. It was a nice event with a good turnout. When we heard that they wanted to do a ribbon cutting, I had Rob get a hold of the Upper Valley Business Alliance, who was on hand. They brought all their supplies and equipment. And the other benefit that we saw from that today when we did it was there were multiple people from the UVBA and then multiple businesses from around the Upper Valley that came in and got to not only see the Bark and Bevy business and talk to them, but see what's going on here in Enfield. So it was a nice event, and we look forward and welcome them to town. The ZBA had a hearing last week. They denied a variance for 117 Algonquin Road, which was some building within the setbacks there by the lake. Rob has been working with that property owner, and they're working on a way to possibly get a permit within the buildable area that doesn't need a variance. So that'll continue moving forward. And then at the same meeting, the ZBA did approve a variance for additional 4 residents at Tardif Hall in Shaker Village, owned by Jay Boucher. He made a pretty good case for the use of residential area instead of commercial area in today's climate. Rob will be joining the New Hampshire Regional Leadership Coordination Work Group. It's a mouthful, but it's a new committee that's being put together to work with the Council on Housing Stability. This will be a long-time group that he'll be a part of, representing Enfield throughout the state. Good to have him on that board. The Planning Board will hold their second and final public hearing for zoning ordinance amendments next Wednesday, 1/21/26 at 6:30 p.m. at the DPW building. Moving on to building inspector, Vinny attended a training on mechanical code updates recently, and he's been working with the residents under the new septic rule that are kind of going over the deadline, usually mostly by things outside of their control, scheduling issues with inspectors and not getting reports on time. But he's making contact with them and working on them to make sure that those get in a timely fashion. And I will have him put together in the near future for the board, just kind of a rundown of where we're at on that program. 2025 ended with 174 building permits, which is 3 less than we had last year, but 4 more than our 3-year running average. So we're pretty much on average last year with building permits. The Public Safety Department, we had 3 police officers and 1 firefighter from Enfield start their EMT course today that's hosted at the Public Safety Building. And then the next one, the Enfield Public Safety Departments will be celebrating the addition of the new pumper tanker by hosting a push-in ceremony on January 24th. That's a Saturday at 11 o'clock. And then Chief Holland and I are working right now through individual agreements with insurance companies that deal with the new EMS billing laws. We hope to have those wrapped up by next month. It's a little bit of a long process. We have to actually enter into an agreed upon contract with each of the insurance companies. So not as simple as we thought it would be, but it's actually moving along fairly well, and we've been working in collaboration with Lebanon, making sure that contracts are reviewed properly forward. So on the DPW front, we have scheduled the destruction of the truck from the diesel grant that we got. So we got the new truck, and part of that grant was that we have to destroy the old truck. So on January 23rd, the state will be coming down to witness, as we're required to cut a 3-inch hole in the engine block and cut the frame between both axles on both sides of the truck. They're pretty strict on making sure that we do that right. In 2025, all the annual backflows were inspected and the report has been submitted. The town tests backflow devices annually that are designed to prevent contamination from getting into our water system at times of low pressure. Some higher hazard uses, such as hair salons, car washes, and restaurants, are required to be done twice a year, and our staff does those backflow inspections. Jim Taylor, Steve Mazinski, and myself attended a meeting with an engineering firm this week to discuss solutions for the uranium issues at the McConnell well and how to best satisfy the New Hampshire DES requirements outlined in the letter we got, letter of deficiency in December 5. We'll be moving forward with those. We have asked there's a local vendor that has worked, I believe, with New London and put one of those filtration systems in that we talked to you about. The local vendor has contacted an engineer that they worked with, and we've gotten a proposal from them. We'll be working forward. We're under a very tight timeline with DES to start making some strides forward on that. So I'll keep the board involved in that, but I'll probably be coming to you in the near future with awarding that contract so we can just keep that project moving. The highway department has made over 2,000 gallons of brine now with the new brine maker that they purchased last year. They've been using our common road salt and some well water. They had a bit of a challenge at first getting the right 23% solution, but they're learning every single time they do it, and they're pretty happy with the results that they're getting from that. And then recreation, to finalize things up, the after-school whaleback ski and ride program started this last Tuesday and went very well. It will run every Tuesday until February break. The program offered in the school district, and this year we have 50 students ranging from kindergarten to 9th grade who are participating in that program. And then Todd is still working with other towns. You may hear something, making final adjustments to the basketball schedule, mostly the 5th and 6th grade ones. One of the things that happened, the Rivendell tournament dates were changed after the schedule was set. So we have several towns that are regrouping and adjusting schedules at this time. Todd will be updating, I think most of it's done, some of the game schedules on the app. And if you have any questions or you get questions from people, please refer them to Todd. That's my report.
Todd does an awesome job updating it as soon as he knows. I just want to put a plug in for him as a parent of one of those 5th, 6th grade groups. It's not easy how often these things move.
Thank you. Next, we have the business of the evening. Under the heading of 2026 Town Meeting, first we have acceptance of petitioned warrant articles, if any.
So
There are none.
there are no petitioned warrant articles.
Okay. Next, 2026 deliberative session warrant discussion.
So we do have some PowerPoint slides, and based on the public hearing we just had, if there's any changes that the board would like to make to this, this would be a great time to have those discussions. We'll kind of go through this fast. We can go through, I guess we can go through one article at a time is probably the best way to do it. Article 1 was election of officers. We want to skirt down and just reiterate a few things. So as we move through this, we'll move from article to article from the warrant. You guys may reorder articles on the warrant if you want within the law allows. And then you must vote on recommendations on each moneyed article. As we get to the budget hearing, if you need to redo the budget, we can do those ones at that time, or any of the other ones for that matter. This is not a vote on whether to, you can vote whether to put an article on the warrant, but it's not the recommendation's not a vote whether to put it on the article, but a vote to recommend to the voters whether it should pass or not. I know we've had confusion on the board of that before, so just want to make sure that's clear that the recommendation vote is whether you recommend it pass or not. And then just because it's on the warrant for a vote does not mean you have to recommend it. So Article 2, we wanted to put this in there so you guys could see it. Just this is the planning board article for the zoning ordinance, but if there's anything confusing on it or something you'd like to talk about, we can do that. But this is the wording that we're using right now. Are you in favor of adoption of amendment number 1 as proposed by the Enfield Planning Board for the town zoning ordinance as follows? And the bullet points are the creation of 3 new zoning districts: Enfield Village District, Enfield Village Downtown District, and Enfield Village Route 4 District. Second bullet, the amendment of land use tables listed in permitted land uses, including residential and commercial. The creation of dimensional requirements and limitation tables for the 3 new districts listed above. And the creation of updated zoning district maps. Copies of the amended zoning ordinance and related zoning district maps will be posted on the town website. They're there now, but if anything changes, they'll be updated, and they will be at all the polling places. We did get some guidance on how to write this article from the town's attorney, but if there's anything in there that you see is confusing or like to see changed, we could definitely run that back by them.
I think it reads well. The only thing that I know there's open questions on is exactly how they're available at the polling location. So we could clarify that before the public hearing next week. I think that would be valuable information for people of how that will be available.
Okay, Article 3, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $1.4 million gross budget for the sewer infrastructure improvements. Not going to read this whole one again unless you guys need me to, but this is the Article 3 that we talked about during the public hearing.
We're not allowed to change the verbiage line. The Board of Selectmen recommends the article by a vote of X. In other words, we're not allowed, to insert the line, Board of Selectmen recommends the posting of.
No,
It
because
should say select.
you would actually be recommending whether it passes or not.
There's some variance in the language, but I'd like to see them all say select board. I'm not.
Agree.
That's a fair point, and I agree with that it ought to say, the select board as opposed to the Board of Selectmen. That's a correction that should be made. So we're not allowed to clarify the language to indicate that we're authorizing the posting of the article
No.
and the approval of the article.
That's not what that's doing. You guys can definitely vote whether to put this on the warrant or not put this on the warrant, but it's a moneyed article, so you need to recommend whether you recommend it pass or recommend it not.
So the line where it says the Board of Selectmen recommends this article by a vote of XX, that's the recommendation vote to approve.
I'll make a motion that the select board recommend this article,
Second.
which is Article 3.
All in favor by name?
Kate, yes?
See, yes.
John, yes.
Eric, yes.
Alice, yes.
It is unanimous.
I just want to reiterate, if the board would like to, you could recommend moving it from the. All right, Article 4 is to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of the 2.5 million. All that for the Main Street parking and the trail along Baker Museum.
Want to make a motion?
Yeah, I'm going to be the daring one to make the motion, I think. I've noodled really hard on this. I quizzed Ed a lot today about the input monies and kind of pieces of the project. And well, I think we all share in the absolute shock of how much it escalated. I am going to make a motion to recommend this article.
I'll second.
So,
I'm Kate, yes.
that's not,
It's not. Definitely not as
want to wait?
definitive enough.
Well,
Do we have
I'm going to vote no. Sorry.
do we have an opinion from members of?
Eric, yes.
I just gave my opinion.
Alice, yes.
I want to recommend the
should vote on this, and then you can make a motion.
If we vote on this, can that be in the possibility? Vote no on this. I'd like
Now
to
would
make
be
a
the time.
motion to remove Article.
My problem with that is that gone through a process of hearing people that express their deep feelings one way or the other. I thought our whole purpose in this on was to let the voters decide.
I agree, John.
And voters now know that the board is split. I think that's fair.
And I think I'm okay putting it on, giving it my personal recommendation, and still am very accepting of the idea that people may very well say no for good reason. I think it's a fair process, and I want to hear what people think. And we've weighed out a lot of things that are very need-based over the years. This is surely in the want category. And some people are going to want things, and they're going to say yes. That's fine. And if they say no, that's fine. I don't think you have to get a yes from people every single time.
That's convincing. I'll withdraw my motion.
All righty. Moving on to Article 5.
Make a motion to recommend Article 5.
I'll second.
Okay. Alice, shall we start with you?
Alice, yes.
Eric, yes.
John, yes.
Tracy, yes.
Kate, yes.
I would, however, like to see it financed over the longer period of time rather than the shorter period.
I think that should be an operations decision that should be discussed with CIP.
Well, there is no CIP to discuss it between the time and now and the decision to finance.
Yeah, we can have those discussions either with CIP or with the
We'll bring it
select
up
board.
later
Or,
once you firm up the number.
yeah, it'll be a little bit after. It won't be.
Oh, it'll be
immediately.
months out before we're able to firm up the number. No question.
Yep, we can have a CIP
We'll
meeting.
discuss that at that time then.
Article 6.
Make a motion to recommend Article 6.
Second.
Alice, yes.
Eric, yes.
John, yes.
Tracy, yes.
Kate, yes.
Unanimous. Article 7.
Make a motion to recommend Article 7.
Second.
Favor?
Kate, yes.
Tracy, yes.
John, yes.
Eric, yes.
Alice, yes.
Article 8.
Make a motion to recommend Article 8.
Second.
All in favor?
Kate, yes.
Tracy, yes.
John, yes.
Eric, yes.
Alice, yes.
Article 9.
Make a motion to recommend Article 9.
Second.
Second.
All in favor?
Alice, yes.
Eric, yes.
John, yes.
Tracy, yes.
Kate, yes.
Let's see. Article 10, we are not asked to vote on. Article 11,
Make a motion.
to vote on.
We are. That is a money one. I'll make a motion to recommend Article 11.
I'll second that.
Alice, yes.
Eric, yes.
Oh, yes, we are. Yes, correct. John, yes.
Tracy, yes.
Kate, yes.
Number 12, we're not asked to vote on. Okay.
I'd like to clarify one thing just for the board. I know there were some discussions at the budget committee meeting, and I have talked with the attorney on article. Is it Article 9, the $361,000 to raise and appropriate for undesignated fund balance for the public safety building fraud? I know the board would like to see it come from here so it doesn't go in the loan, and we pay interest on that. But if this fails, something does happen, absorbing it into the cost of that project is something that's allowed.
Thank you for doing that research.
Okay. Next up, we have 2026 deliberative session discussion.
One of the things we want to talk to you about again is the information that we want to bring to deliberative session. We've been trying pretty hard to put the annual report together to get that out on time. I think with the closing of the books and all those things, I don't think it's really feasible to do that and not put together an annual report. That's not a good piece of work. So again, we'd like to come to you and ask that we be able to put on the website as soon as the budget hearing's over and to print documents for people to get in the town offices and to bring to the deliberative session. I'm going to call it all the critical pieces that you would need to make the decisions that you need at town meeting. So the budget, default budgets, CIP plans, all the information that we would have in there, the warrant narratives, everything that would go along with the votes that would be needed to have the discussion on all the warrant articles there. And then we will get town report done as quickly as we can get the books closed and the information that we need in there, be able to publish a professional town report. To do that, as we've discussed in past meetings, you know, Canaan, some of those people, they do kind of that same thing. They don't print their annual report. I have found a few towns that do print their annual report, but upon further investigation, most of those towns are towns with fiscal years, so their fiscal year closed last June, and they have 6 months or so to prepare those documents. I think trying to close all the books and get everything done in a few weeks' time to be put something professional out is not very feasible.
Yeah, I'm strongly in favor of that. I think we need to simplify it and stay sane.
I have two requests. One is that we consider doing what the school district does, which is that they place copies in the local stores if the store is willing, because it's easy to pick up on the counter, and those do seem to go. That way, it's an extended, especially where we have very short office hours now, and there's no evening hours, that makes it available to members of the public who they're not going to take time off to come here to get a booklet. And then my second request would be that we consider reducing the number of printed copies, because we give out a significant number of printed copies in the past at town meeting. Since we're not going to have that to give away, I think the assumption could be made we're probably going to give away less copies to in-person folks, right? Because they're not going to be a deliberative session. And I know we've seen like boxes here and over in the community building. It would reduce our printing costs, and worst case scenario, if we run out and we have to make another run or we have to print someone on a copier, 1 or 2 copies, I'd rather do that than just to keep printing.
Recollection as to how many we printed? I think you can cut,
You think we need that many even?
maybe not even that many.
Okay. You have a lot of experience with the school deliberative sessions, right?
They do their book in advance and they do their full book.
How many participants do they usually get?
It depends on how exciting the warrant is. So the year that they had a petition warrant article to fire the superintendent, the auditorium was more than packed. They had to move from Indian River School to the auditorium. So I think you have some years like with 20 or 30 people. I'd say you consistently always get at least 30 to 40, and you maybe in a year, if it's a snowstorm, you get less. I don't know what we're going to get here. It's our first year, and also Enfield is a very engaged population. We have a lot more people who go to our regular meetings than board meetings, unless there's we have, I'd say, regular attendance. So,
Okay. Thank you.
Don't think we need 200.
No.
save the environment, save our wallet.
Save the trees.
Was that it for deliberative session discussion, Ed?
Unless you guys wanted to talk about anything else, we will have next meeting to kind of pre-plan a little bit more.
I think that's what I was wondering, is like between now and the 7th, when is the meeting where we're going to go through the slides and do the script and all? Which meeting is that planned for?
We can do that. Our next meeting, and the only one between now and deliberative session, that's a select board meeting, is February 2nd, which is the Monday before deliberative session. So we can kind of do a little bit of a dry run through what we're going to be presenting.
Did you say on the 2nd?
It's like Groundhog Day.
Like I can only hear like every other word you say, so I have to put it together in my head.
February 2nd.
Where will it be held?
Deliberative session is going to be at Enfield Village School in the cafeteria, just like we have normally done town meeting.
Are we hiring Mascoma AV to do the video? That video last year was really good.
Yes, they're going to do the video and the sound for us this year.
Awesome, thank you.
On to the financial report.
Yes, I'm not going to go through the entire table that's on there for you guys, but I will go through the basic report here. Overall position, we've ended the year below expenditure budget with an estimated surplus that you'll see at the budget hearing of just over $230,000. We continue to audit healthcare costs, and other expenses are still trickling in from the PFA card, things like that on the healthcare side. And then we have a few expenses still trickling in from 2025. Revenues have also come in over budget, which will add to the fund balance when that all gets sorted out. Taking out interest from the trustee of trust funds, because we haven't got that number yet, we appear to be about 65,000 over on revenue, but we're still finalizing those revenue numbers as well. There is a chart in there that's probably really hard to see, but it's some of the stuff we went through in the budget committee, just some explanations of the over and unders throughout the budget. One of the big ones, I guess, I want to point out, I did talk about it at the budget committee, was there's a $70,000 engineering fee in there for the Potato Road culvert. That was a management decision as we went through to go ahead and absorb that into some of the surplus we had in the budget instead of moving it into CIP. On the treasurer's report, right now we have taxes were just due. We have $7,449,678 in the bank as of January 12th. General operating and sweep account is $4,796,817. The savings sweeps, which is the building fund, is $2,582,174. I still need to finish auditing that. I've started some, but I think our final number is not going to be too much lower than that we have left over from the two building funds. We did a really good job coming in under budget. Town clerk, right now we have $67,000 in there. That's the kind of the sweep account. We try to keep that around $50,000, like I've said. And then the tax savings account on there is where we pay the IRS out of for payroll. Monthly school payments are $938,443. And then we did pay the Grafton County tax payment, $1,164,426 on December 17th. So as of right now, you guys should have a reconciliation report, and I can let Elisa talk to that if we need to, but we're pretty much reconciled most of 2025 as far as we can. We got to get a few more revenues in and some of those things, but we'll continue reconciling those. And then the financial consultant that's coming on a week from now, I guess, is going to help us reconcile some of our liability counts and some of those things as we move forward. Tax collection, as you can see, total billed last year was $19,219,224. That did cause a little bit of confusion in one of our budget committees because we're talking town general fund. The 19 million is total county, school, municipal. Collections to date, the first issue is 98% collected, and then second issue, we're 41% collected. But those aren't due till today, January 15th, and this was done a little bit ago. So we expect those to be mostly paid When I was writing this, we had gotten one of our bank escrow accounts come in. They usually pay right at the last minute, so there's big chunks of money that come in there. One of the bigger things from last year, and we did work pretty hard in the budget committee to try to budget this a little tighter this year, but motor vehicles ended up with a revenue about $100,000 over budget at the end of last year. So we continue to climb on the motor vehicle registration budget. I'm not going to read through all the fund balance ones because you guys see those every month. But if you continue down, we did add a little section this month of the capital projects. So looking forward into next year, we put the 2026 capital projects that we're planning on participating in. As we go through the year, I will mark those off whether they're completed or not, and then we'll try to update those costs as best we can. And then on the grant side, just wanted to highlight 2025 grants. We applied for $4,384,400 in grants, and we received or have been notified that we are going to be awarded $4,093.79. As you guys know, $2.5 million of that is the Walk a Mile grant, but DPW did do a good job on SRF loans and some of those to get $1.3 million in grants. The police department got $62 million awarded in grants. And then the EMPG on the bottom is the hazard mitigation grants that we got, and the $75,000 is for the generator that's going in at public safety, right? And that's the financial report. I would like, if you guys don't have any questions on that, I'd like to talk a little bit more about the finance procedure for hiring the finance director under the finance report section.
Okay.
I just want to comment that these finance reports are really helpful.
So with no comments, I did pass out tonight some stuff I worked on today. As part of the procedure for hiring the finance director / assistant town manager, I think we should use a process very similar to what you guys did on the town manager. I think this is an extremely high-level position. So what I'd like to do, and I put some information in front of you to review, we can have comments tonight, and then I also can give you guys some time to look it over. Let me know. I'd like to post this either by the end of the week or early next week, but I'd like to put out a call for resident applicants to help with the finance director hiring advisory committee. This will be an advisory committee that does kind of the first round of interviews. We can talk about who we would like to see on that tonight. I didn't put any of that in. Personally, I would like to sit on that with the advisory committee, and I don't know if the select board would like to put anybody forward or not, but I do think we would have a second round of interviews that the select board would be involved in. And then, so as we go through this, MRI will do that first initial screening and screen out candidates that don't really qualify. They'll pass on qualified applicants down. And then, like I said, I'd like to put a committee together to sit through that first round of interviews, and then we can come forward with the final candidates to the select board. I did put together a little bit more robust form like we've done in the past for some questioning. This one really just goes to a little bit more detail of looking for people that have some sort of financial background to be able to sit on this advisory committee, but wanted to bring that before the select board before I posted it to the public for comments and
Idea.
How many folks are you thinking of on this committee? Target number.
I think you'd probably want somewhere around 5 to 7 total. So, you know, if we had myself and a select board member, if we wanted to do it that way, or a budget committee member, then some public, it would narrow the public number down a little bit. But I think 7 would probably be your max size that you would want on this. And then I don't think you'd want less than 5.
I have pretty strong feelings about having one budget committee member. I feel like personally, I don't think we need a select board member on this committee because you're going to bring the person forward and we're going to get another chance. I don't know how the other members feel, and I would like to see somebody who holds a position in which they oversee a budget or finances from another town. So, and I think we have some folks in this town who hold these positions elsewhere who can ask some of those really hard questions that, you know, somebody can kind of club their way through some financial things, but they can ask some of the harder, like, how would you classify this type questions? And I think those are the things that will really help us going forward with the audit and also our internal controls piece. So I'd like to prioritize, and we don't necessarily have to put that in here, but I'd like us as a board to consider prioritizing somebody with that skill set. And you know I have someone in mind.
I agree with Kate's suggestion that I don't think there needs to be a select member in this initial committee. We'll have a second round of interviews with a smaller group that involve the select board.
I agree with that point also.
I concur. Kate gave good advice there, good suggestion. I think 5 to 7 is the right number, and one budget committee member is important.
So I have one budget committee member. I'll sit on there and we'll look for 5 citizens at large. And if we don't have somebody, which we probably will, that has high-level finance experience, we can have that discussion and maybe even pull someone in from outside if needed.
I don't think it needs to be from Enfield per se.
I think it'd be nice to be, but if we need to, we can find somebody. Okay, I will put those parameters together and I'll get this published soon. Please take the questions home, look at those, and let me know fairly quickly if there's anything you'd like to see different on there.
I think they are good questions, and somebody who actually knows what they're talking about is going to answer in a useful way, and then you're going to be able to see that somebody's answering in a very general way and might not be as helpful.
Okay. Ready to move on?
Yes.
Yes, good. Administrative items.
I gotcha.
First up, solar exemptions, White and DeCosta, Sinkamani, and Saxon Living Trust.
Unless there's any comments, you don't have to discuss those.
We didn't discuss them last month, and there were half a dozen applications.
Now, the administrative items are the ones that are in the yellow folder to sign. So unless there's questions or someone in the public wants to comment on it.
All right.
I assume that we're doing a good job at the assessor's level to evaluate those solar applications and find that to be sufficient.
Then we have current use application for Adams. So, public comments? Doctor? You're next.
Dave Buffet, Enfield. Thank you. I wanted to just have a couple of questions, and but start with the announcements is that there will be a candidates forum on March 3rd in the evening at the community building, which is 1 week before the town and school election, and both the town candidates and school candidates are hopefully going to be participating.
Thank you for doing that.
I have a question about the deliberative session and just some methodology there. Is there going to be free internet availability so that people can look at the whatever reports are available for that are not hard copy paper? That can that possibly be done? So that's a question to look into. I realize it's a difficult question, but it would save printing costs. I also attended the school budget hearing last night, and they came in a little bit under their default budget this time. around. It is a bit of an increase as the default budget is as well. But so it's a goal that I commend them for, and one that I think we as a town need to look carefully at our budget each year. So I do have paper copies that I had intended to bring of the report that they passed out at that meeting that included the material from their budget deliberations, as well as the pertinent warrant articles that were on there. I will deliver those to the town office if anybody wants to take a look at those, or perhaps they can be available. I don't think they're available online as yet. We'll look forward to seeing you at deliberative hearing.
Thank you.
Steve Stancic. Just a follow-up to the earlier discussion about the town report. I tend to be old-fashioned, and I like seeing things in print. So you can count on having only 99 copies after you print those up. But I would urge them to maybe look at the cost on that too, because sometimes there's price breaks. And so if you reduce the quantity, you may not get any price break when all is said and done. It might even cost the same amount to produce a lesser number. And the other thing to think about is well, first off, I don't know how this deliberative session is going to work. I'm not a supporter of SB2. Didn't vote for it the first time or the second time, but it is what it is, so we're dealing with it. But I do think that, a lot of people may want those reports when they're at the deliberative session, so that's something else to keep in mind. Yes, you can put it on the website, but I know I, for one, am not willing to, load up, 300 pieces of paper in my home copier and let it run all day to print out a report if I'm so inclined. So I'd much rather have one pre-printed, and kudos to the board and town office. Every year, the reports have really been a very well put together publication for the size town that we are. So we should be proud of that.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Yes.
Sharon Beaufet Enfield. So I just need some clarification, please. So when will a printed version of the town report be available with your best idea?
I was going to say the full annual report has to be done by March 3rd. We'll get them done as soon as we possibly can, like we do every year. But like I said, we'll have a large portion of that covers all the stuff that we'll be voting and the information you need for that before the deliberative session. Probably really soon, a day or two after the budget hearing, we'll get that posted online, and then we'll print some out as well.
So thank you for that answer. So when is the deliberative session, the date?
The deliberative session is February 7th.
And so I think what you said, my understanding is that you will have some of the pertinent parts available before February 7th.
Yes, we'll have all the pertinent parts ready. There's some state law stuff that we have to have in there with 25 financials and stuff like that that won't quite be ready, but we'll be really close with that. We'll have the budget, deliberative, or default budget, CIP information, all the stuff that goes along with the voting that we'll be doing.
Okay. Yeah, I think it's really essential. I'm a very visual person. I think the town report, it's interesting to me the number of people that I know who actually do go through it with a fine-tooth comb. And they really look at how the money was spent, what's being asked for, and they make very informed decisions on that. And I am just saying to you, the sooner people can have that information so that they can fully absorb what they feel is necessary for them. And I'm not trying to put extra pressure on you. I'm really not. What I'm saying is you've put a lot of work into all of this. And if you want the budget to pass, it might be a tough financial year. And if people feel they don't have enough information and they don't have time to absorb it, they're just going to blow it off. Excuse my expression, but that's what they're going to do.
Yeah, before voting day, you'll have as much time as you've had in the past, at least, if not more.
Okay, but having a printed version of that, because I know if I look at my computer and several hundred pages, there again, to follow that is nearly impossible.
We'll be
So,
printing them.
Thank you.
Yes.
Betty Plickta, I just wanted to say that I really agree with what Sharon said about including the part on Article 3 that says that it will be paid for by the people who use the sewer system. Just want to say that.
Yes. Do we have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
All in favor? Second? I second. you
Aye.
second. We all second it. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. Thank you for coming, for staying, contributing. I appreciate that. We all appreciate that.